Alexi Brokos, thank you for joining me today on Monsta MTV. We've got a special guest here from Refined Real Estate, and I hear that you're renovating a new office up at Beulah Park.
Yes, we've got our head office just not far from the city, but we've got our new eastern office starting on McGill Road in Beulah Park.
Exciting times for you guys.
Very exciting, very, God, we bought an old character cottage in a beautiful location, but lovely bones, but inside needed a lot. So we've done that and now it looks pretty vibrant.
And we just missed the boat with the monster paints, but next time it'll be there.
Well, we won't be using anything different next time.
Alright, so look, we've got Alexi on MTV today because you are deemed as a bit of an expert in the renovation and the flipper market. A lot of our followers are in that space. And so I thought I'll ask about a few hacks that would be good for renovators and flippers. But I know you were telling me last week briefly about an experience you had with flipping yourself.
Examples of work that I've done in the past myself, and even for clients, I learned that the number one and number two thing that you can influence on a home most cost-effective way were literally to paint some walls and some ceilings and the floors. So painting externally and internally, and then also your flooring. They're the two biggest impact areas that we can have a impact on, basically, whilst not spending huge money but getting a massive result. So I mean, changing walls from pink, apricot, or faded green, for example, and then going through with a modern white colour now, which is in, which is fashionable, makes it look fresh, makes it look inviting. It's a big change for a small budget.
So the walls are the big one, painting walls, and whites are great because we've got our Monster 20 whites and we match over 20,000 different whites out in the marketplace, and we push that. But how do people get the right white for the property? I mean, what's your advice? I mean, you guys have also got interior designers and people you work with, but what's the advice you give to someone who says, hey Alexi, I'm going to put ceiling white down, I want to flip this in a couple of months' time. What white do we go with? Do you look at the floors first? Do you look at the architraves? How do you select it all?
Okay, jump on some websites, check out some magazines, go look at something that you like, go to a home decorator centre, go to something on the website where you go, hey, I like that tone, and I think they've done a slightly matching but slightly darker architraves or skirtings. Also call someone in the industry. Call someone like myself or someone where you think, you know what, they should have a clue because they're having people coming through all the time. They'll have an idea of how the buyers respond to a property. Did they like the pink walls? Do they like the apricot walls? Probably not. Do they love the fresh, vibrant white walls, for example? Yes, they do. Do they love the polished floorboards? Did they want the natural tone? Or do they want something like a chocolate, for example? So call someone in like me, or if you're a flipper, if you're someone that goes and does something with a property then looks to sell it, generally they're not living there.
Yeah.
Generally, my advice is you must style it because the furniture helps.
So you want to keep the paint pretty simple then, the whites?
Keep it simple, put your colour tones in with your furniture, for example, but my advice is you're going to get a stylist.
Yeah.
Get your stylist in at the start.
Before you start?
Before you start, get some advice. You're going to use that stylist at the end when they're going to be furnishing the home. They'll normally come out. That additional cost of them coming out won't be anything. So it's a good way of utilising someone without the cost of utilising them.
So the instant transformation is the paint job?
Huge. Yeah, huge. I mean, you can change some taps, for example. You can change some light fittings, get rid of the daggy ones that hang down and shrink the head space, for example. Put some LEDs up, $14 a light, for example. Not expensive, but the paint is a huge one at not a huge expense. And I would invite someone to go and get some paint. If they're capable and they've got the time, do it yourself. If you don't have the time,
and to try a few things
correct.
out. Yeah.
Put some walls up or put some tones up, see which one looks best. You're not going to go too wrong with a shade of white, really. And the impact can be, for example, you mentioned earlier, previous projects. It can be as much as buying a $520,000 property, doing a $7,000 makeover, and selling it for close to $800.
You heard that from the expert, the man, and that's good advice because they're believable, they're real numbers, and it's a formula that's worked for you. Floors, what are you suggesting with floors?
Floors, if you've got a character home, for example, or in Adelaide we've got lots of the stone cottages, or even the 1950s or 16s normally have a beautiful timber flooring. I would pull back a corner of the carpet, check what exists there. if they're proper timber floors, I would be polishing them for sure.
Yeah.
And whether you introduce a bit of a stain or not, sometimes you get certain rooms that have, you know, different floorboards. So sometimes it is good to pick them up, stain a neutral, even colour, so then it flows from all your living spaces to all your bedrooms.
How do we go with tiled floors that you might think just, you know, you're going to lift it up with the paint, etc. But old tiles,
Yeah.
what's your advice there? Because, you know, tiling's expensive to go and retile. Depends what you're trying to, you know, how much you're prepared to spend on the flipping side.
Again, your budget. Sometimes you can go and pick up a really good tile for $14 a square metre. I had a bathroom renovation go into a property where they're edging towards $1 million, and they picked up $19 a square metre concrete tiles.
Wow.
600 by 600. It looked amazing. It looked like something out of Vogue magazine.
So it's all on the research that you do and check it out, like you said, the planning, the preparation side.
Right product, right price, right execution, and then you'll get the right result.
Okay, so we've got inside the house. First impressions is the front.
Yes.
So what's your advice there? You know, people rocking up for an open inspection, they might not stop if they think this looks crap. You know, so what's the advice between front yard and backyard?
Okay, front yard is huge in the sense that normally when we post the property on the market, the alert they get in 5 minutes. 5 minutes from there, they're calling someone. 5 minutes or half an hour from there, they're normally doing a drive-by.
Right.
So when they do that drive-by, you've got to give them a reason to come in. So if they get, I guess if they see the images on the internet and inside looks amazing and everything looks ticking boxes, you don't want them to drive there and see grass, you know, 4 feet high or 2 feet high.
Yeah.
You need them to look at it and basically say, honey, I like the look of that. We're definitely going in. Rather than
clean the pavers, all that sort of stuff.
Pressure cleaning, get some gardening done, get some mulch in all your areas where you should have mulch and not have weeds, for example.
Yeah.
Trim back some trees so you can create some space. Don't have it looking overgrown.
Hide the bins.
Yeah, definitely get rid of the bins.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll advise a customer to actually take them totally off site, not in the garage, because even with the garage, my number one that I do for most of my clients is literally have them empty out their garage and give it a good concrete paint.
Yeah, okay.
So a thick epoxy, and it makes it feel like a showroom, gets rid of any imperfections, and it makes it feel beautiful. But street appeal is number one.
Yep.
Number two is also the backyard. Backyard can't be a mess, because normally you've got your kitchen, living, dining area, open plan, your backyard's there. So whether you've got some decking, for example, you need to give that a recoat. Whether you've got gardens and grounds, they also need to be in good order, including fences.
Where do people go wrong, Alexi? Where do they bugger it up? Like, what have you seen in the past with clients that have totally stuffed it? Be honest.
Two ways. You can stuff a renovation up by doing it purely to your taste, by saying, no, I want yellow walls and I want pink chandeliers, and if you really put your taste on it that's
not neutral
or has a short window of who's going to appeal to, then it's not what you want to do. You want to widen your audience. You want to get everyone in.
So use the finishings to acquire more of your taste than the actual fixtures and the permanent stuff.
Whatever's in that magazine that is neutral enough, not punchy,
Yeah.
but neutral, stylish, gets them in the door, gets them falling in love with it, let them put their touches on it, basically. That's the number one.
Yep.
So someone make an error when they go too hard on their own personal stuff and it doesn't blend with what the audience wants. But the main other reason is if someone buys something badly.
So the price at the start wasn't where it should have been.
You make the money at the start, you don't make it at the end. So you make it by buying the right product at the right price. If you buy the right product at the wrong price and do the right renovation, you can still lose.
Yeah.
Because you might be chasing a figure that doesn't exist because you paid too much for it.
Yeah.
Or you bought something that needed too much work and it's not a cosmetic renovation.
It's a structural.
It's a serious renovation. And then there's all these hidden expenses that no one really sees. Like if you spend $20,000 on your roof trusses because they were sagging, no one's going to go, wow, you've really transformed the house, because they can't see it.
What do people get wrong if it's not a structural issue, but they might just overspend? Like, where do they need to be smart about not giving people a dive, but giving something that's functional, but not where they'll never get a return on those hidden things?
Okay, so irrigation in your backyard, for example. I had a customer that spent about $7,000 on underground irrigation.
Hmm.
They probably had an adequate irrigation system.
And no one's going
already.
to appreciate that when they come to
No
that
one's going to spend the
inspection.
extra 7,000.
Hmm.
Another one is air conditioning, for example. Some people go and spend 15,000 on a beautiful brand new air conditioning system.
Hmm.
If the house doesn't warrant it, or if it's not a $1 million house, for example, someone might not say, hey, that 15,000 is automatically coming back to you,
Yeah.
if the old system was still okay.
Yeah.
So you've got to spend it where they can see it.
Okay, I'm just going to, so you've spoken about mistakes. What advice do you give to a young couple that might want to be looking to buy a property first time and think, okay, well, this is the first venture into flipping or a reno that we might keep for a year or two, versus the more acquired taste, the ones that are going to be buying the properties in the areas that you're selling? Do you give varying information or varying advice between those two demographics?
God, young couples, I remember being...
Because a lot of them want to get into that now, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Passive income on the side, etc.
Yes, and watching all the shows and thinking
Yeah.
they can do it and add value, which they can. My advice for a young couple is, again, do your homework, get some advice, call someone in, call a professional to give them thoughts on what they should or shouldn't be buying. And when they do find something, also, don't be afraid of getting some advice.
Is there a percentage rule you use on what you're going to spend versus what you've spent, what you've bought it for? Do you have a rule in that regard?
A rough rule, maybe 5%.
So if I bought a place for 500,000, 5% is what I should use to get it right.
25,000, which can then incorporate some tiling, can maybe incorporate some stone bench tops, a repaint of the kitchen cupboards, for
I
example.
will save on the paint. From
Yeah, there you go. Some wall paint, ceiling paint, floor polishing,
Yeah.
and then some gardening. And you've probably transformed it. It looks
Yeah.
nothing like it did before. Maximum result from not huge money.
And if I'm a flipper that's done this 3 or 4 times, what advice do you give to those that might think they're good at it, but you know exactly where the market's going to go? Is it come down to perhaps area where they're in versus the percentage rule on what they're going to spend?
Never over-capitalise for an area, no matter where that is.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that if you're in Medindi, there's a level that you need to put your house to. But if you're in, a lesser area, for example,
Yep.
where the median price is 300,000,
Yeah.
don't try to create a product that's at 500, for example.
So it's a realistic expectation on what you're going to get a return on.
Yep.
Obviously.
Otherwise, you'll overshoot it, and then you're going to chase money that may not exist, and then you'll be coming backwards. That's what I find.
Alexi, we're going to finish up in a minute because there's some great stuff you've given us. But just final thing in terms of advice to people that perhaps in a home thinking of renovating, but think we might not be here for another 5 to 10 years. It's not a flipper project. Is there anything different that we've just spoken about that you give to those people? Because they still want to live in it. They're going to have parties. They're going to have guests over, family, etc. They don't want to look like they're living in something they don't like.
The advice is do it now.
Yep.
So I meet a lot of clients that buy a property, then in 10 or 12 years decide they're going to sell it, and they go and do all this cosmetic or even semi-structural work, not huge money, again, and all of them say the same thing. Why didn't we do this 12 years ago or 10 years ago? So they could have got some value out of it. Not just
Yeah.
the value of selling it,
Yeah.
but the value of living in it,
Enjoyment, yeah.
enjoyment that still would have been fine in 7 years or 10 years or 12 years. So my advice would be, do it from the outset. Then you get to enjoy it for a bit. Put the gas heater in if you want it.
Yeah.
Put the new air conditioning in if you want it. You're going to be there for 10 years, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it will resale better, but you've also got to enjoy it in that time.
Alexi, that's been fantastic advice you've given. I know a lot of our followers will enjoy this. For those of you that are in South Australia, get onto the Refined Real Estate website and you can check out Alexi's details. He's there available with his team to help you out in his new office up at Beulah Park. And for those around the country that are not access to an expert like this in Adelaide, rerun this information on our YouTube channel. There's a lot of good advice here for flippers or renovators. And this is a guy that knows exactly his stuff. He's an expert in the industry, and it's been fantastic having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. Enjoy.